Hello, I want to draw your attention to the case of Elżbieta Olszewska, who's an 80-year-old Polish woman, and she's now threatened with deportation from the UK. This is really it's not so much about Elżbieta as about the Home Office in its current form, which isn't fit for purpose. It's a ministry soaked in officious cruelty, a self-regarding bureaucratic edifice so detached from the people it governs that it now functions more like a punitive regime than a department of a democratic state. It is not merely broken, it is malicious. This 80-year-old Polish woman now, who is due to be thrown out of the UK for the crime of submitting a form online instead of on paper. The form was accurate, the intention was clear, the application was timely, and yet the Home Office has decreed, after 6 months of silence, that her application is invalid on a procedural technicality. No right of appeal, no leniency, no common sense. Her only son, a British citizen and an aeronautical engineer, brought her here because she is frail and alone, and he and his wife wish to care for her in her final years. A basic expression of family duty. But the Home Office doesn't recognise human need because the Home Office is staffed by shits and it's an appalling organisation. It recognises process and process alone. And this episode isn't an anomaly. It is entirely in keeping with the culture instilled so many years ago by Theresa May during her tenure as Home Secretary, a legacy that she herself called the hostile environment. But let's be clear, let's not forget that she was building on a framework established by David Blunkett under Labour, who introduced the biometric ID cards, which didn't work, and then began the shift towards treating immigration not as an administrative process, but as containment. And successive governments, red and blue alike, have treated migrants and even their families as threats to be neutralised rather than as people to be understood, supported, helped, accommodated. The problem with the Home Office is not merely that it is unaccountable, it is actively inaccessible. So even if you are a born and bred Brit, you can't get in touch with the Home Office. If you have a question which is slightly off the beaten track, I had some paperwork I had to get hold of a short while ago. It was supposed to take, I think, 40 days. It took significantly longer than that, and I only got it because I appealed to my MP. And I put in a complaint. That hasn't been processed, of course. To try to contact the Home Office, you enter a Kafkaesque labyrinth of telephone queues, no reply emails, services that they don't serve. And when you get through to somebody, it's a help centre masquerading as the Home Office. It's not really the Home Office. It's another organisation. In this particular case, a paper form was required, but the department didn't say so until it was too late. The family is now pursuing a judicial review, a process that shouldn't be necessary for a simple visa request for an elderly woman. And what does the Home Office say in response to this unavoidable cruelty? It is our long-standing policy not to comment on individual cases. Of course it is, because they can't actually produce a voice, because nobody is answerable. Because if it did comment, it would be forced to acknowledge how inhumane it had become. The result? An 80-year-old woman is being threatened with imprisonment, fines and permanent expulsion. Her son, a taxpayer and a citizen, is rightly outraged. He says this feels like Soviet bureaucracy, and he's not wrong. This is a system more reminiscent of late-stage communism than modern Britain, a machine so concerned, the Home Office, with its own procedures that it forgets entirely its actual purpose. Its original purpose is to serve the public. And it thinks, actually, it is there to dictate. And where is Labour in this? Silent, timid, possibly complicit. This is not a Conservative failure, it's a cross-party disgrace. A Labour government cannot posture as humane while permitting this kind of administrative thuggery. And the Home Office has become a ministry consumed by its own authority. It sees no need to explain, no need to justify, no need even to listen. It is at its core dictatorial. And therefore I propose a radical solution. It must be reformed root and branch or replaced altogether. We don't need a Home Office that punishes the elderly for bureaucratic misunderstandings. We need a department that understands people. Enough is enough. Elżbieta Olszewska deserves to be here, and we, the citizens of this so-called civilized country, the subjects of His Majesty the King, deserve a Home Office that serves with compassion, not cruelty. Enough.